I am 83 years old, and I need you to hear me carefully, because what I am about to say is not dramatic, it is not bitter, it is simply true. There is something about places like this that no one explains before you arrive. Not the smiling tour guide, not the glossy brochure, not even the family who believes they are doing the right thing. And it is not what you think. People talk about loneliness, they talk about being forgotten, they talk about fear, but that is not the hardest part. The hardest part is how quietly you begin to disappear. My name is Harold. I spent 40 years installing heating systems in small businesses all over the state, grocery stores, schools, warehouses. I left the house before sunrise most days and came home smelling like metal and dust. It was honest work, steady work. In 1974, my wife, Margaret, and I bought our first home for $22,000. 2 bedrooms, a maple tree in the yard. We raised our children there. Daniel learned to ride a bike on that cracked driveway. Claire practiced her clarinet in the living room until the neighbors probably memorized the songs. Margaret passed away in 2020, a quiet evening. She had just finished folding laundry. She sat down in her chair and closed her eyes. The doctor said it was quick. I hold on to that. After she was gone, I stayed in the house. I told everyone I was fine. I could cook. I could drive. I could manage the stairs slowly if I held the railing. Daniel called every Sunday. Claire lived 3 states away, but we talked often. Then one morning in February, I slipped on the back steps. Snow had melted and refrozen overnight. My hip fractured, surgery followed, then rehabilitation, then physical therapy. I recovered, but I did not return to who I was before. Something changes after a fall, not just your bones, your confidence, your rhythm. I began double-checking everything, then triple-checking. I stopped driving at night. Then I stopped driving in the rain. Eventually, I stopped driving almost entirely. Daniel started coming by more often. He brought groceries, he shoveled the walkway, he tried to make it look effortless, but I saw the way he glanced at his phone. I heard the strain in his voice when work called. One evening, he sat across from me at the kitchen table and said we should talk about options. Options. That word sounds gentle, responsible. We toured 3 facilities, bright hallways, polite staff, a piano in the lobby no one was playing. I told him I could stay home with a few adjustments. He asked what would happen if I fell again. What if no one found me for hours? He was afraid, so was I. We chose a place called Meadow Ridge Residence. There is no ridge. There are 2 small bushes near the entrance and a fountain that does not always work. But the rooms were tidy. The dining hall smelled like soup. The people smiled. The first night after Daniel left, I sat on the edge of the bed and waited. I waited for someone to say this was temporary, that once I was stronger, I would go home. No one said that. My first roommate was Leonard, 89. He had been there 5 years. He told me the secret was to lower expectations. Do not expect the food to be hot. Do not expect immediate answers to the call button. Do not expect visits as often as promised. He said it gently, not unkindly. He passed away last spring, quietly, in his sleep. By lunchtime, someone else had moved into his bed. Life here continues efficiently. And that is when I began to understand something. You do not stop being a person overnight. It happens gradually. The nurses know I prefer honey in my tea. They know I take 2 blood pressure pills at 8 in the morning, but they do not know that Margaret and I danced in the kitchen every Friday night. They do not know that Daniel once scored the winning goal in a championship game and cried because he thought he had disappointed his coach. They know facts. They do not know me. There is a woman down the hall named Evelyn who tells the story of her honeymoon every afternoon. The same story, the same details. At first I thought it was forgetfulness. Now I think she is holding on to proof that she was once deeply loved, because here the evidence of your life fades. The world that needed you shrinks. Daniel visits twice a month. He stays about 45 minutes. We talk about traffic, about his children's school projects, about a new software system at his office that I do not fully understand. We run out of words faster than we used to. But here's something I need to admit. When I was his age, I visited my own father in a similar place. I stayed an hour. I talked about nothing important. I left when it felt acceptable. I believed I was doing enough. So this is not blame, it is perspective, because here is the part no one prepares you for. These places are safe, they are clean, the staff work hard, many of them are kind beyond measure, but they are waiting rooms, and waiting is different from living. You wake up at 6 because that is when the lights turn on. You eat at 4:30 because that is dinner time. You take medication handed to you in a paper cup. Days stack neatly on top of one another. Some people are here for years, 10 years, sometimes more. There is a gentleman named Walter who is 95. His mind is sharp. He reads history books and corrects the television news under his breath, but his body has betrayed him. He cannot stand without assistance. I once asked him how he manages. He smiled and said, "You adapt to what you cannot change." That sentence stayed with me. Now I want to speak to you directly. If you have parents growing older, you will one day face a decision like the one Daniel faced. You will tell yourself you are choosing safety. You will tell yourself professionals can provide what you cannot. And in many ways, you will be right. But understand this gently. Even in the best facility, something essential is missing. The familiar creak of your own staircase, the smell of your own kitchen, the feeling that you are still needed in someone's daily life. And yes, there will be relief that someone else is watching over them, relief that you can sleep through the night without fear of a phone call. You may feel guilty for that relief. You do not need to punish yourself for it. Caring is exhausting. Life is demanding. But do not confuse safety with fullness. Last month, Claire visited. She flew in for a conference and stopped by for an hour before heading to the airport. We took a photo together. She posted it online. People commented about how devoted she is. She is devoted. She loves me. And sitting here afterward, I thought about the evenings I worked overtime when she had school recitals. The weekends I spent fixing furnaces instead of sitting in the audience. I believed I was building security. Now I have security. Meals appear on schedule. Bills are handled. My room is warm. What I miss is being necessary. Margaret used to tell me not to work so much. She said time would move faster than I expected. She was right. You understand certain truths only when you have more past than future. And here is the reawakening I have had sitting by this window. It is not too late for you, not if you are listening. Call your father and ask about the job he had when he was 25. Sit with your grandmother and let her repeat the honeymoon story. Visit without watching the clock. Do not wait for perfect timing, because one day you may find yourself in a quiet room, grateful for good care, safe and warm, yet wishing you had traded a little money for a little more time. There is an aide here named Sophia. She remembers that I like my toast lightly browned. She brings an extra blanket when the air conditioning runs too cold. She asks about Margaret by name. Small gestures matter more than she knows. Kindness keeps a person visible. This place is not cruel. It is not a villain in my story. It is simply a chapter, but life is not meant to be only chapters of waiting. If you take anything from my voice today, let it be this. The years you have with the people you love are not stored in a savings account. You cannot withdraw them later. You cannot earn them back. Spend them while you can. Sit longer, listen deeper, leave work early once in a while, because in the end, what we miss most is not comfort, it is connection. And connection, when nurtured, is the one thing that keeps us alive long before we are gone.